Tournament tip-off party.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Point win. The St. Louis Billikens announced their presence in the NCAA tournament in a big way in 2026. Josh Schertz has his first NCAA tournament victory. St. Louis wins 102-77.
Alongside Alex Ferrario, I'm Brandon Kiley. Got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We are broadcasting live today at Ray's Sports House out in Soulard. Come on by, say hello, grab yourself a cold Bud Light. The games are just, miles away from here. So come on by, say hello, hang out with us as we watch all the games. I've got all the screens ready to go for this morning and this afternoon slate. Going to be a fantastic day of basketball once again. And Alex, if you are a SLU fan today, I have to imagine you're thrilled with the way that last night went. You couldn't ask for anything more. I've got some stats for you. You know, I'm stat boy here.
You are stat boy.
Ferrario. So how about this? St. Louis had 8 players score at least 9 points in yesterday's win against Georgia. It's the first time in NCAA tournament history that 8 teammates scored at least 9 points in a single game. Wow. So the depth of scoring was clearly there for SLU yesterday. It goes beyond that. They are only the second team in NCAA tournament history to put up at least 100 points and win by 25 or more as a 9-seed or worse. So more history there. The other team to do so was Loyola Marymount. They did so in 1990, so a very different era of college basketball. Finally, they scored 66 points in the paint yesterday against Georgia. God. That is the most by any team in the last 7 NCAA tournaments. SLU didn't even win yesterday the way that they normally do. This wasn't some 3-point barrage that they put on Georgia. They just dominated them with ball movement. That was a Josh Schertz masterclass that we saw yesterday. Coaching on full display. He is locked in for at least the next year. We'll see what happens beyond that. We asked yesterday, what happens if they lose tonight? What happens if this is the way that the story ends and such an unbelievable first 5 months of the regular season comes to a deflating loss after a really rough end of the season? And we both said, T-Bone disagreed, but we both said, still a success. Disappointing end, but a successful season nonetheless.
Right.
After watching that last night, that was a party. That was a celebration, if you're a SLU fan, of everything that happened this year. It was real. It wasn't like smoke and mirrors. No, this team is every bit as good as what you saw for the majority of the season, and they hit a rough stretch, and thank God they were able to get this thing back on track going into the NCAA tournament. What a night for SLU basketball last
night. And honestly, BK, that's the part that worried me. I mean, I talked about how, losing down the stretch and kind of playing the way that they were, the plantar fasciitis with Robbie Avila, and wondering what that was going to do. And all of it was just thrown away the moment that tip-off happened. I don't know if ever it felt like Georgia was in that basketball game. The moment SLU scored their first bucket, it just felt like Georgia was chasing SLU. They were beating them underneath the bucket for rebounds. They were out-muscling them to balls. They were beating them in transition. And I mean, for me, Robbie Avila was the part that I was most interested in. Like, what were you going to look like with that plantar fasciitis? And, I mean, he led them in minutes on the floor. He was big. He was able to make the deep threes for him. When your leader can play that way, you're going to perform. I was most impressed at how you just made Georgia look like they were the inferior team. Because coming into it, I think everybody saw Georgia, SEC versus A-10. For somebody that was struggling, you're probably going to lean towards the SEC. So, if anything right now for Billikens fans, you're already riding the ultimate high of that win. You're also looking at it and saying, like, hey, successful season without question. But how great does that contract extension look now?
Amazing.
Like, now you know that the guy that not only went 6 for 6 in the portal and really put the program back on the map from where it's been for the last 6, 7+ years, now you're at the point where it's Josh Schertz, and it's like, oh, my God, this is the guy we have moving forward. Hopefully it's longer than just a 1-year contract extension, but my goodness, Josh Schertz was prepared, and so was that team.
I heard Tim on TMA earlier today. He made what I thought was a really good point. The other thing that this does is if you lose that game and you're Josh Schertz, maybe you look at this and you say, I don't know, man. I don't know if we can do it here.
Yeah.
Because you finally went up against one of the big boys in Georgia, and that's not exactly a world beater over on the other side. And once we finally met our match with talent, the other team was just too much for us to overcome. And that's coming off of a 6-for-6 portal season and an unbelievable year where you do have Robbie still around. And if you weren't able to get over the hump yesterday, you could look at it and say, all right, next year's probably the last year at SLU, and then I'm going to try to get out there to greener pastures. Maybe he just didn't like the job market that was available this offseason. But when you do it that way in that game against Georgia, regardless of what happens this weekend for SLU, when they go up against what very well could be the best and most well-rounded team in this year's tournament with Michigan, like that could go really poorly for SLU, and I don't care really. Yesterday is what mattered. If you're Josh Schertz, you can leave that game thinking, what we're doing is working. And if we can continue to build on this thing, if we didn't have that weird, 3-week stretch to our season, and we didn't have to go up against Michigan tomorrow, they could have gone on a run, man.
Yeah.
This is a team that was capable of that. The draw just didn't go their way. If instead of their draw, they got Missouri's draw, and in the second round they got Purdue, who you don't always know what you're going to get out of them, I would feel better about them. And I think they could win that game potentially. I wouldn't pick them, but they could win it. So I think it allows you to dream a little bit if you're Josh Schertz. And he's a different kind of cat. I mean, he stayed at both of his previous, or most of his previous spots. Lincoln, and then I think it was High Point, and then Indiana State. The first couple of stops, he stayed there a while. He was loyal to those schools. You know how I view it. Don't mess with happy. If you're happy and you've got an opportunity to stay somewhere that you view as having success, maybe he will view this long term as, all right, you know what? We can build this thing here the way that it was built at Butler when they had their coach, with the way that it was built at VCU once upon a time, the way that it has been built at Gonzaga. Maybe not to the same degree, but a successful school like that nonetheless. Maybe yesterday is that moment where things change about the future of Josh Schertz at SLU.
And you've got the commitment from the university, right? Chaffetz has been
Absolutely.
very outspoken about how much he loves Josh Schertz and how much he loves that basketball program and how much he invests into it. And if you're Josh Schertz, you get a little bit more investment. You just went 6 for 6 in the portal. Now, who knows if you can do that again? Odds are that it's probably not very likely, but you've built an identity to a program in a couple of years. Now, a lot of it is surrounded by Robbie Avila, and what do you do to replace that? That's going to be the big question moving forward. But he knows how his team needs to perform. He's well prepared. He seems to be able to sell this program very well. You're absolutely right. He's got a commitment past, and if you have to be stoked if you're SLU to understand that you have that and now look at it and say, cool, we can continue to put the investments into it. Again, a season like this puts SLU on the national map a little bit more, especially now when you're pulling off a win like this to get to the next round and you're going up against Michigan. And if you keep that at least competitive, which I would expect them to, there's going to be a lot more people talking about SLU. So the program is in probably its healthiest stage right now because of what Josh Schertz has done this season. And I got to be 100% honest. I think I'm most fascinated to see what their next season looks like, just as much as I am with Mizzou, who I know have that much better recruiting class.
SLU goes into tomorrow's game against Michigan as a 12.5-point underdog. That's a lot of respect for SLU, honestly, going into that game. That's a 12.5-point spread in favor of Michigan. It will be the early tip, 11:10 tomorrow for Michigan versus SLU. It's been a great tournament thus far, Alex.
Yeah.
I don't think you could really ask for a whole lot more. You got the upset that we were all hoping for yesterday with High Point taking down Wisconsin, your classic 12 versus the 5. Other than that, you got a bunch of close games. And a lot of the time, this is what it is. And I talked to T-Bone about it yesterday where I'm like, man, I understand that you're not getting the same number of upsets, but it's about the belief. It's about watching a second half and thinking, oh, boy, Duke might lose. Siena might have their number today. Duke might not have enough to pull this thing off. And then Siena ultimately doesn't score for 6.5 minutes.
I cashed out, luckily, though.
Not
so
only wins, but wins by 6 in the end. Howard for a half, keeping things interesting against Michigan yesterday. You had a couple other close calls where in the first half, Troy was keeping things close against Nebraska. you had a couple moments where, all right, what's McNeese going to be able to do here? They get out to that early lead against Vanderbilt. South Florida made things really interesting late against Louisville yesterday. North Carolina goes up by, 19 points?
Mm-hmm.
And finds a way to lose against VCU in overtime with some unbelievable finishes there. Like, this is what the tournament is all about. No, you didn't get many true upsets yesterday. Really, the only big one was High Point. Other than that, everything was like a 2 or 3 point line for the teams that were under the lower seeds that did advance. But that's a quintessential day one of the NCAA tournament. You got your big Cinderella story. I don't think High Point's story goes any further than the first round win, but who cares? You got your moment. You got some intriguing games. And I think we're going to see something similar today with some really close, fun, exciting basketball on display.
Side note on that VCU North Carolina game, that was the worst overtime game I think I've ever watched.
Dude, what was it, 3 points?
They went back and forth for almost 4 minutes without making a basket. I'm like, what is happening right now? But regardless, I'm with you. Like, T-Bone talked yesterday about, how the magic feels like it's gone in March. I feel like the magic is always this first weekend. Mm-hmm. It's always these first couple of days where you get High Points, you get Siena pushing Duke to the brink but losing. Maybe you get one of those upsets. That, to me, is where always the excitement has been when it comes to March Madness. And now, because of what we spoke yesterday on the NIL and the transfer portal, now you move on to where High Point's probably Cinderella story ends there. And if it doesn't, then that creates even better viewership. But it ends, and you still get the cream rising to the top. So you kind of get the best of both worlds with this, to where you do get that magic in the first round, like T-Bone mentioned, but then you get best on best the rest of the tournament, which I think a lot of people enjoy. So I highly enjoyed everything. It's rare for me to stay up late and watch these games. Of course, you ended on a high note with that SLU victory, but from start to finish, it felt like you had competitive games pretty much all day.
And I do think you've got some opportunities for that once again today. I think the first game is really the starting point. Santa Clara is really good, guys. Like, do not underestimate this team. I fell for St. Mary's. It's not the same thing with Santa Clara. This is a team that actually has athleticism. St. Mary's is like, whoa, they can run and jump? Whoa, I didn't know you could do that. That's crazy. And they did not look like they belonged on the same court as Texas A&M. I'm disappointed in myself that I fell for that sad-ass state of basketball that we watched last night by St. Mary's. Santa Clara is really good. They can run up and down the court. I think they've got a real shot in the first game of the NCAA tournament today. This thing's tipping off here in about a couple of minutes. Santa Clara can, and I think will, beat Kentucky today. Akron has a real shot. They're only a 6.5-point underdog in the 5-12 seed matchup against Texas Tech coming up here in about 30 minutes. That's only a 6.5-point line. Texas Tech without arguably their best player. And then one that I think has become a little trendy is Hofstra.
Oh, yeah. Grant Francis, the pride of Grant Francis.
They're an 11.5-point underdog today. Alabama, once again, who could have seen this coming, dealing with off-court stuff where their second-best player gets arrested for a bunch of weed being in his car, allegedly. They're an 11.5-point favorite today against Hofstra. Do I think Hofstra's going to win? No, but Bama's weird, and I never know what to expect out of them. So we've got a chance, even while we're on the air, Alex, to see a couple of really intriguing games once again. The NCAA tournament's the best. It doesn't get better than this.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite times of the year to get this type of action and this type of excitement. And on top of all of that, we mentioned we're here at Raisin Soulard, but driving downtown and seeing the amount of people that are downtown already for the action that's going to be taking place over at Enterprise Center. This is fun. The weather warms up. You get this excitement. And, of course, you get to, indulge yourself over on the Underdog app.
Yeah, you couldn't have asked for a better weekend here in St. Louis.
Oh, my gosh, are you kidding me?
Mizzou is in town. You've got great games here in St. Louis. It starts now in St. Louis, and it continues all the way up until, 10 o'clock when Missouri's tip-off will be this evening. Tonight. It's going to be late.
This is what we want in downtown St. Louis.
But we've already got people walking around out here in Soulard. We've seen it. As I pulled up today, I was like, I don't know that I'm going to be able to get a parking spot. This is going to be a little tough.
I left early because I was worried there was going to be crowded downtown, and I'm glad I did, so I got down here.
So come on out, say hello, grab yourself a cold Bud Light. We are hanging out until 2 o'clock. The Fast Lane will be here from 2 to 6. All of the downtown festivities today, as it is officially March Madness here in St. Louis. Our NCAA tournament action and our coverage is brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. You guys can get involved in the show, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. My upset pick is looking fantastic so far as Santa Clara is down 8-2,
well, they got the
roughly
bucket.
2 minutes into the
got the
game
bucket.
against Kentucky. He's Alex Ferrario. I'm Brandon Kiley. Bradford Bruns is fighting through it today. He was on the board for about 27 hours yesterday.
Seriously.
Back in with us today. Can't speak.
Champ.
Doesn't know how he's going to get through it. He's going to figure it out, though. He's a champ. We also have Doty out here with us today as well. Brad Thompson, Cardinals reliever and World Series champion, joins us coming up here at about 15 minutes. We will have our weekly conversation with Mike McKenna coming up at 12:15. But next, I want to expand our conversation about the NCAA tournament because yesterday, High Point's coach made a really interesting comment after their upset against Wisconsin. Did he have a point on this, Alex? We'll talk about that next year on 101.
Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
High Point's got the rebound and the outlet to Johnston. And his first two-pointer of the year gives High Point the lead.
That's what it sounded like yesterday. Turner Sports with the call as High Point comes away with really the win of the day against Wisconsin. They had their first, one of their players had not recorded a single two-point shot all year.
That's absurd.
Had not scored a two-pointer. Had 60-some-odd three-point shots that he made this year. Was one of the best three-point shooters in all of college basketball. And just stood there. Was just a cherry picker. Just, I'm going to be behind the arc. You will never see me, not once, go inside of this line. That is not where I reside. So just an unbelievable game by High Point yesterday. Alex, what I found to be most interesting, though, because we talked about the win, the upset. We'll get more into that later on today as well. Their coach afterward was in his post-game availability with the sideline reporter. First of all, he was fired up. And second of all, had some interesting comments that I wanted to get into with you. Take a listen.
It looks pretty obvious to me that high majors need to play mid-majors during the season because they said we ain't played nobody. We played somebody now.
How'd you do it?
Feels unreal because I know how good of a team we had, but nobody would play us, just like they wouldn't play Miami, Ohio. But they got to play us in this tournament.
It's a fair point, first of all. And I do empathize with his situation. Mm-hmm. It must suck to go into a season knowing I've got a really good team and I want to see them get tested. And I would love to play Illinois or Mizzou or Texas or whoever. And we reach out to these schools and they say, no, not interested. I mean, look at Mizzou's schedule, for example.
Yeah.
They play a bunch of nobodies. And then they also have like 3 games against Power 5 opponents. But otherwise, they play nobody in the non-con. And it's by design. That's what Dennis Gates wants to do because, and listen, they were rewarded for it, to be fair. He basically says, I want to get a bunch of wins in the non-conference slate, and then we'll be tested enough in the SEC schedule that will be where we boost our strength of schedule over the course of the season. He's right. We can hate it, but he's right. Mm-hmm. And so when you're one of these Power 5 schools, why would I schedule High Point or St. Mary's or Santa Clara or whoever those up-and-coming Group of 5 or mid-major teams are for that season? You're not incentivized to do so.
I thought they pay to play them, don't they? Don't they pay those big schools to play them?
Sometimes they can, but if I'm that school, I can get the same thing out of a different school.
Right.
Right? So why would I go play a team that might beat me? I'm not incentivized to do that. I'm serious. I'm not incentivized to play you when I could otherwise play against Howard or whoever else I want to throw, or like SEMO, right?
Right.
No shot against SEMO, but, I mean, it's a likely win for a school like Mizzou.
How dare you?
So I don't really know how you change this. I know there's been a lot of conversation today about, you've got to change the criteria of getting into the NCAA tournament. How? What do? I'm just going to get rid of the metrics? Okay, so now we're just going by the eye test? That's not going to work. We used that for the BCS, and that was a disaster. We use that for the College Football Playoff Committee, and people get mad all the time because they're like, they don't have any defined criteria to get into the College Football Playoff. Well, no, because this is what you seem to want for the NCAA. I don't know how you change this. It sucks, and I do empathize with High Point, but I don't know how you encourage schools to schedule these games with the way that they're incentivized to get into the NCAA tournament.
I don't think you do. Like, I know High Point and Miami of Ohio, they don't like the answer to this, but it's kind of suck it up and wait till the tournament. Like, as much as they want to play these big schools and they're kind of begging them to play, you're right. Like, if I'm one of these Power 5 conferences, I don't have to play against you, and frankly, it probably doesn't bode well if I play against you. But I also look at it as, and I understand they get frustrated because, honestly, it doesn't go well against them. Like, Miami of Ohio is a great example. They were undefeated all season, and people were talking about them potentially not being in the tournament. And why were they saying that? Well, they didn't play anybody.
Yep.
Well, it's not their fault. Like, if they're an undefeated team, they should be judged just like all these other squads, and that's the hard part with this. But if I'm High Point, if I'm Miami of Ohio, honestly, if I'm teams like Siena, it also kind of plays into the advantage of you when you get into the tournament because nobody expects anything from you. And as we saw with Siena, as you just saw with High Point, and I would imagine with Miami of Ohio later today, like they're going to make things interesting. And I think a lot of this is because teams or outsiders, other teams that are going to play them view it as, well, this isn't a Power 5 conference, so this isn't even going to be a competitive basketball game. And then these teams come out of nowhere. So I also kind of wonder if it's a little bit of an advantage to these schools that they're not playing them in the regular season. I mean, the hard part is getting into the tournament.
Yeah,
when you get in,
I don't think it is an advantage for them at all.
But-
and the reason being, like, if you were let's go with just to use High Point as the example, because they spent real money on their roster this year, and they knew coming in we've got a good team. If they had been able to schedule, let's go just like 3 SEC teams, right? They were able to schedule Kentucky, South Carolina sucked. Kentucky, Georgia, and Mizzou. 3 legitimate NCAA tournament teams, and they went 3-0 in those games. Well, High Point's not a 12 seed then. Suddenly, High Point goes from a 12 seed to, I don't know, a 9.
Mm-hmm.
And now their path in the NCAA tournament looks a lot different. Now, they won, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Honestly, their path as a 12 seed is better than it would have been as a 9 because then they're stuck against a 1 seed in the second round. But that's where it does get difficult. And I don't think there is an obvious way to get around it.
no, there's not.
It's unfortunate, and I feel for these schools, but
Really-
this is the way of the world, and you just have to navigate it and hope that you're able to get into the NCAA tournament, and then you prove your worth.
Yeah.
High Point, they proved everything they needed to yesterday on the court. It would not have mattered if they beat Kentucky in November if they got mollywopped yesterday by Wisconsin.
Right.
Nobody's then going to look back and be like, well, they played somebody in November, good for them, and they won that game. No, they care about what you do in March, and so they're actually better off this way by winning in March than they are by playing against these teams in November.
Fly under the
whatever.
radar. And then when you get to March, that's where you get to go up with those big noises. I mean, it does suck. That's the part that you want something to change. Then you want it to change in terms of how they view these teams. But like you said, it's the way the world is in terms of the NCAA. And there's really no fixing it, because if you're going to go change the criteria of, well, they picked up wins, but they weren't Power 5 conferences, so those deserve as much, you're going to get into a whole mess of problems moving forward. So it's unfortunate, and it sucks to say, if you want to get into the tournament, you kind of have to be elite in the regular season in terms of nearly undefeated. Get in, and then you could do your damage like you just saw High Point or Siena nearly do yesterday.
He's Alex, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. T-Bone off today. He's going to all these basketball games. I would imagine he's already there watching Santa
he's
Clara
pre-gaming.
versus Kentucky. Kentucky up 14-13 at this point. Santa Clara has made things very interesting after going down 8-2 in the very early going. About 12 minutes left in the first half in that one. Coming up in 15 minutes, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, we'll get into those coming up at 11:45. But next, Brad Thompson, former Cardinals reliever, World Series champion, now analyst for FanDuel Sports Midwest, joins us for the first of his weekly conversations with us here on BK and
101 ESPN Sports Center.
March Madness Day 2 loading. Good morning, I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is presented by Universal Windows Direct. SLU put on a show last night in Buffalo, blowing out Georgia 102-77. Illinois also handled its business against Penn, beating the Quakers 105-70. Currently, first-round tournament action resuming with Santa Clara, Kentucky. Wildcats up by 2 through 10-plus minutes of play. Akron, Texas Tech will tip off at 11:40. Approximately 10 hours from now, Mizzou meets Miami. Downtown baseball, Matthew Liberatore's Cardinals face New York shortly. Righty Tobias Myers goes for those Mets. This Sports Center update was powered by Universal Windows Direct.
BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Ray's Sports House for our tournament tip-off party.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Alongside Alex Ferrario, I'm Brandon Kiley. We've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN, and we are happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline for the first time this baseball season to be joined by our friend, the Cardinals broadcaster and World Series champion. He's Brad Thompson joining us here on the show. BT, what's good, man?
Gentlemen, the weather is good. It feels like it's baseball season. That means it's going to snow on opening day, but life is good, man. It's tournament time. Baseball's right around the corner. I'm looking forward to it, man. How you guys doing?
Doing fantastic. By the way, not that this is a huge shock, but Ollie Marmol just announced the rotation to open up the season. Matthew Liberatore, as we heard earlier this week, will be the opening day starter. Then it will be Michael McGreevy, Dustin May, Kyle Leahy, and Andre Palante. Let's start out with that, BT, because this is your area of expertise, and it's certainly been a topic of conversation for the Cardinals all offseason. What do you think of the way that they've configured this rotation and them going with a 5-man instead of a 6 this year?
Yeah, I think it makes sense going with the 5-man. You have enough off days early on. I believe you have every Thursday off in April. So, I mean, you'll have a well-rested group. And what I really like, before I just get into the actual 5 that are there, I like the fact that you have depth, too. You've got guys that are sitting there knocking on the door. I know that Richard Fitz was sent down, who's throwing the ball well, has great stuff, but he'll certainly be a part of the mix coming into the season. But, look, I like the group that they have. I can't wait to see what another year of Matthew Liberatore looks like. Big year for him last year, obviously, when it comes to career highs in innings and career highs in starts, and you can say that for a few guys. Andre Palante is in that camp as well. But I think you've got a group that, first of all, pounds the strike zone. You're not going to be falling behind. With Liberatore, Dustin May, and Kyle Leahy, I think you've got swing and miss there. I'm super excited to see what Dustin May looks like this season because he's got a chance to be electric. But I feel like this is going to be your biggest strength of your ball club this year, I believe, is going to be the pitching staff. The starting staff last year did not have a great season for them, bottom of the barrel when it comes to the National League, or at least around there. I feel like this group's got a chance to be a lot better.
Specifically for Matthew Liberatore, BT, we saw shades of it last year, and I think it started to fizzle out a little bit down the stretch, probably because it was that first full season of being a starter. But looking at Liberatore's offseason and him getting this opening day start, what's the ceiling look like for a guy like this?
Well, look, I think that he's the ace of this rotation right now. We'll see how he stacks up in the league after the year is over. But there was a reason that this big lefty was drafted in the first round years ago by the Rays, because they believed that his upside was going to be front of the rotation type starter. And I think that he is going to have the opportunity to prove exactly what he is. I think it was a great learning experience for him last year, getting the nod for those, I believe, 29 starts for Libby. And you saw him kind of grow. Yeah, he came out of the gates hot. First 13 starts were really good. To your point, there was a little bit of a downturn, but I thought he finished well. He navigated it well. Mentally, I feel like that's where Libby has grown the most. I felt like a couple of years ago, would have been 2023, when he was kind of back and forth, just spot starting. You could almost see him thinking on the mound. Now you just see him competing and thinking about just the next pitch, not 5 pitches down the road or not 3 batters down the road, you can just see him competing. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like for him coming into this year, having the experience of a full big league slate under his belt. The stuff is there. I mean, the fastball is in the mid-90s. He's got really good feel for his secondary stuff. The curveball's always been good. The slider's good. He's been working on that new split to give another wrinkle to some of the right-handers. So it's going to be a huge year for Matthew Liberatore. And I hope for Cardinal fans now, because, boy, I know it's been a point of contention over the years. I think you're starting to see what the Cardinals were really getting in this deal with the Rays. I mean, they were looking for a high upside starter, and they've got one in Matthew Liberatore.
Brad Thompson's conversations with us here on BK and Ferrario are presented by Buffalo Wild Wings, the ultimate home run for wings and wins. All right, BT, that's the good. I agree with you. The rotation should be the strength going into this upcoming season. There is the Jordan Walker of it all, and you know we can't go a full conversation with you without bringing his name up. It has not been a pretty spring training in terms of the results thus far. I am curious whether it's conversations that you've had with people around the Cardinals or your own eyes just watching these games. What are you seeing from Walker this spring, and does it give you confidence that he can get this thing turned around in 2026?
Yeah, BK, I think you're right. The bullpen is going to be good this year, and it's going to be a group where they are. No, look, this Jordan Walker, it should be a point of conversation because this is a guy, just like we were just talking about with Matthew Liberatore. There's a reason teams pick you in the first round. There's a reason they give you a bunch of money out of high school is because they believe that you're going to be an impact player. We all know that Jordan Walker has the physical gifts to be able to do that. Now it's about putting these gifts together. This was a big offseason for him where, you know, he was working to make some swing changes. Unfortunately, those changes didn't melt into the games in spring training to this point. He's still going to get, I believe, he's still going to get his shot at it. You know, you try not to overreact either way, good or bad, when it comes to spring training. I do feel like in your final week of spring training, that's where you see more big league pitching and you get more of a true test of, what a guy is looking like. But I think right now when it comes to Jordan Walker, this isn't about his wholesale swing changes right now. We're a week before the season starts, and he's probably your right fielder on opening day, right? So the fact that you're not going to revamp the swing totally, what needs to get better, and we've seen this in spurts for him, is swing decisions. I know that we've had this conversation. We had it last year. He has to know what he can handle, has to be able to lay off stuff that he can't handle, recognize it out of the hand early in count, and then battle when he gets to 2 strikes, because there were just far too many times last year where you look up and all of a sudden Walker's in a hole 0-2 and you know what's coming. It's a breaking ball from a righty spinning away from him, and he was going to swing over it. That's just kind of how it was a year ago. I still believe, and I know the organization believes in the upside of Jordan Walker, but he's got to have to start putting it together because now there is competition. Now there are guys that are behind you. Baez is hitting home runs every day. We've got 9 straight. I saw a home run in 9 straight games for Joshua Baez. This dude is coming. Like, he will be here sooner rather than later. They want to give him some seasoning in AAA. He's never been there. Another young kid. But, the opportunities only last for so long, and I think that we're getting closer and closer. I'm not saying he has a bad 2 weeks and walks out, but you have other guys that are going to be starting to compete for these spots. So I really root for Jordan. He's a great guy. He does work hard, but you got to start seeing that hard work come to fruition on the field because that's where it matters.
On that front, BT, we talked about it yesterday. They had that spring breakout game yesterday in terms of all of that incoming talent that the Cardinals have put in their pipeline. You've been around the Cardinals organization for a long time, BT. What's the level of excitement for what this team, this organization has in their pipeline?
Dude, it's so refreshing right now, and it's just been so great to be down in spring, and I'm not there now. I went down a couple of times throughout the spring. Now I'm just getting ready for opening day. But just the energy around camp, and it's not just around the big league camp, like the energy with all the minor league staff and the players, like there's a real feel that this group is solid. Yeah, and wherever you like to look at your numbers, I believe coming into spring training, it was Baseball America had the Cardinals farm system now number 2. I believe it was behind Pittsburgh. You can just see it. And there's talent across the board. You've got talented young hitters. Obviously, you got some great arms. You've got a bevy of catchers, and it'll be interesting to see what Chaim Bloom ends up doing with that group at some point, because probably don't need 7 of them. It's such a solid group right now, and that's what the Cardinals have been needing. Is you have to build from within. You have to draft well, you have to develop well, and then those guys have to come up to the big league level and help you out. The hope is that the next superstar is coming from within that group. Hopefully it's already on the big league roster, because it gets pretty darn expensive to have to go out and trade for superstars all the time. It would be nice to have one that is in your group. Maybe that ends up being J.J. Weatherholt. Maybe that is somebody else a little bit further down the road. But it is a group where they have drafted well, and then they've poured into the development side. I don't have the exact number in front of me of how many people they've actually hired internally, but more front office, more instructors, more directors of things. Like all of these things that other organizations had that the Cardinals did not for a while. They have, and they're catching up, and their goal isn't to catch up. Their goal is to be a leader in that front, and I think they're well on their way.
BT, I'm looking forward to doing this each and every week throughout the Cardinals season, man. Thanks so much for hopping on with us today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, this beautiful weather out there, the NCAA tournament. We'll talk with you again next week, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. The weather's so good. I'm going to drive to Bettendorf, Iowa now and play in an indoor baseball tournament.
Beautiful.
That's what I'm doing this weekend.
That's exactly
I
what
can't
you
imagine there's anything you'd rather do today.
Yeah.
You know what? I would rather be playing outside. But other than that, youth baseball is the best. You guys take care. Good luck. I hope you win all your bets.
Take it easy, BT. Appreciate you. That's Brad Thompson joining us here on 101 ESPN. Appreciate his time as always. You'll be able to see him on the call this year for the Cardinals once again on FanDuel Sports Midwest. You'll be able to hear him regularly on 101 ESPN as well throughout the course of the season. We will be having our weekly conversations with Brad Thompson on Fridays here on BK and Ferrario. He's Alex Ferrario. I am Brandon Kiley. We've got Bradford Bruns back in the studio for us today. It's a tight one. Kentucky up 26-23 against Santa Clara. Santa Clara feels like they allow this thing to get stretched out, then they come back. And then they get stretched out, and then they come back. So it's been touch and go so far, but about 4 minutes left in the first half. And that one, Akron is down 9-5 in the early going against Texas Tech. Texas Tech is up early, about 14 minutes left in the first half in that one. Coming up next, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. Ask us anything, sports or otherwise, here on BK and Ferrario.
Broadcasting live from Ray's Sports House for the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
You've got questions, BK and Ferrario may have the answers. Questions and Answers is presented by 100 West Dental. Does your dentist actually satisfy you? Dr. Pryor and his team will at 100westdental.com.
Alongside Alex Ferrario, I'm Brandon Kiley. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, go ahead and get them in right now on the text line. From the 314, guys, since BT is every Friday, and I love that, is there a replacement for Katie Wu, who you will have as a weekly segment as well? There is. This year, we will have Derek Gould joining us each and every Tuesday throughout the Cardinals baseball season. So Derek Gould of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, for my money, the best Cardinals insider going right now, and has been for a really, really long time. Can't wait to have his expertise. We've already done a couple of them, so if you've missed those conversations thus far, you can find them on the podcast page. But Derek Gould will be joining us weekly here on BK and Ferrario.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, look, the Cardinal season is going to be a rough one, but you get the personality of BT, which is always enjoyable. I kind of comp BT to Joe Vitale in the sense of what he provides to these broadcasts. And then to have Derek Gould's expertise, I mean, the behind-the-scenes stuff, the stuff that we're not going to be there every day for, and also the minor league ongoing. So, yeah, we got great coverage throughout a Cardinal season.
From caller Steve, over-under. 3 players hitting at least 20 home runs this season for the Cardinals.
Under.
I think Burleson gets there. I think Herrera gets there.
And that's it.
And I think Gorman probably gets there. So I'll say that's the right number. If I had to go, if you're saying that's a push and I've got to go over 3, though, finding a 4th is a little tough.
Yeah.
JJ has the possibility of getting there. I wouldn't bet on it, though. And he's probably the one other guy that I could see it from.
So I don't think Walker will.
I think it's more likely under than over.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Gorman or Herrera are the ones that I'm skeptical of. I just don't know health/consistency. My guess would be Herrera and then Gorman's probably. But, yeah, I don't see a 4th because you're asking for a Walker or a Lars Nootbaar who's going to be out with significant time or Weatherholt, and I just wouldn't put expectations on that right away.
From the 314, guys, if you were to substitute Walker, Gorman, and Palante for Contreras, Donovan, and Sonny Gray, do you think that the Cardinals would be a playoff contender this year? So in this scenario, you would have, I guess, Donnie at third, Burleson in right, and Contreras at first.
Or Burleson in left until Nootbaar comes back.
Sure, either way.
Yeah.
And then Sonny Gray would just substitute into the rotation.
I think it
would be a lot easier to see. You don't have to squint too hard to see how that team could get to 85 wins.
You're the 3rd best team in the NL Central, and you're fighting for a wild card spot.
Yes, I agree.
That's how I would. You're not fighting with the Cubs or the Brewers, in my opinion, with those guys. But, yeah, I mean, you're a fringe wild card team. But in all honesty, that wouldn't make me happy because it would be exactly where you've been the last few years.
Exactly.
Which is why
I think this is a better path.
Yeah, BT used the word refreshing, and it's what I've said for the longest time. This is the path that they needed to go on.
From the 314, guys, I apologize if this is a silly question, but I don't really follow college sports as intently as others. Can you explain what you mean when you say SLU went 6 for 6 in the portal this past season? Sure. SLU took 6 different transfers that were meaningful additions. Each and every one of them worked out. Mizzou did not have that same hit rate.
How many did they have in the transfer portal?
Man, I'm going to have to look back on how many portal additions they had last year.
I thought it was like 5.
They brought in Sean Phillips, Sebastian Mack, Jaden Stone, Javon Porter, and Luke Northweather. So they took 5. Of those 5, I'd say Sean Phillips has worked out. Maybe it's not perfect, but it worked out. Jaden Stone,
2.
I think, was a good one, and that's it. Yeah. Luke Northweather doesn't play for them anymore, really. Javon Porter, that was a disaster.
He was not what we thought he was.
Some of us said this is how it was going to go. And Sebastian Mack it could not have gone any worse for him. He did not fit what they needed at all. So they went at best 2 out of 5, whereas SLU, legitimately all of the guys that they took fit what they wanted to accomplish and have been good additions for them this season.
Yeah, and that's what, like, I would love to know what the success rate for teams in the transfer portal typically is, because I mean, getting 3 of 5, let's just take Mizzou scenario, would be a win in my book if you're getting above 50% success rate. But that's why SLU looks so good, because every one of their guys that they brought in had a massive impact on their team this season.
From the 314, would you guys rather win a championship as a rookie, but then never reach the finals again in your career, or be a guy who's in the league for 15 or so years, but you don't reach the finals until the final year of your career when you finally win a championship? I'd rather get it at the end. If you get it at the beginning and you're chasing that the rest of your career and you're never able to taste it again, I would rather have it the opposite. That would be my personal preference.
I agree with it.
To go out on that high note.
It would suck to be in the league that long and be chasing it, but I agree to the sense that it would be even worse to have it as a rookie to where everybody labels you as a cup winner and then you never get back there again. I mean, Dave Andrewchuk did that with the Tampa Bay Lightning, I believe is what it was. He was in the league for like 20-plus years, and then the year that he said he was going to retire was the year that the Lightning won the Stanley Cup and got to go out on a high note. So that would be the way to go.
He's Alex. I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We are broadcasting live today at Ray's out in Soulard. So come by, say hello. Ray's Sports House in Soulard. Get all the details at 101ESPN.com. We're brought to you today by Bud Light. We've got 101 ESPN giveaways, plenty of screens. You can watch all the games out here. We're just a little ways away from Enterprise Center where these games are taking place today. So if you want to come by, you got maybe Session 2 tickets, come over here, say hello, grab yourself a cold Bud Light. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll talk to Mike McKenna, the former NHL goalie. He'll join us here on BK and Ferrario to talk about the Blues heading into this weekend's matchup against the Vancouver Canucks. But next, we're going to do something a little different here. We're going to get into some NCAA tournament quick hitters, some of our quick reactions to the games and the action that took place yesterday in the tournament. We'll get into that next here on 101.
Return. BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Ray's Sports House for our tournament tip-off party.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Alongside Alex Ferrario, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We are one day into the NCAA tournament. Now we are one half into today's tournament as Kentucky is trailing at the half. Santa Clara up 31-29 against Kentucky.
You were so worried,
That one
man.
is officially at the half. Texas Tech up 24-17 against Akron. Alex, I want to go through some of the games from yesterday to just discuss what we witnessed, because it was a hell of a day in the NCAA tournament. I want to get some of our superlatives from day one of the NCAA tournament. Let's start out with this. The best game we witnessed yesterday was what?
I think it was High Point in Arkansas. It's
I
hard
agree.
to disagree with
Wisconsin.
a game. Yeah, I guess that's
High Point.
Oh, yeah,
Wisconsin.
High Point and
Sorry.
Arkansas are taking on each other, High Point versus Wisconsin. I mean, the other one that I could throw into that was Duke and Siena for how exciting it was in the first
a hell of
half.
a lot of fun.
But it kind of ended on a sour note. So, I mean, it was High Point watching them do what they did from start to finish.
The other one that I would throw in here, VCU North Carolina was great. For the fact that
Minus
VCU was
overtime.
able to come from behind in that fashion, I had all but written them for dead. Like, we do a bracket thing here at 101 ESPN inside of the company, and it's basically a blind draw. So you get into this drawing, and you're able to get a couple of teams, and then you take on that team with their point spread. So I was handed North Carolina, who I did not like. I thought VCU would win this game outright, so I did not like North Carolina going in, but they were minus 2.5. I was like, maybe they can find a way to get this done. And then they go up by like 19 points, and I'm thinking this is going to be great. There's no way I lose this one, and then they found a way to do
and
exactly
the BKO
that.
struck again.
So, yeah, VCU ends up winning that one in overtime. That was a really, really good
Texas
game.
BYU was entertaining as well, mostly
was,
because
yeah.
of BYU and the high stature of their number one player, and Texas finding a way to come out on top.
So, some really good games overall. The team that surprised you the most yesterday was what? In a good way.
Honestly, SLU. And I know we talked about how they were at least pretty comparable and it was a good draw for them. They surprised me in the sense I didn't think the offense was going to be able to do that. I thought they would stay competitive. I didn't think they were putting up 100-plus points. And I didn't think Avila was going to be 100%. I didn't think their depth was going to be able to showcase in this one. I thought Georgia was going to slow them down in the second half. So SLU was the one that surprised me the most because I did not see that one coming.
Siena.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fair.
You never expect a 16 seed to not only keep up with the 1 seed, but really kind of put Duke on their heels. And I thought Duke coming into this thing, you could make a pretty strong argument they were the best team in the tournament. See, the way that Siena played that game was wild. They did not use a bench player until the final minute of regulation. They literally went 5 deep for the entire game until the last minute when finally they ran into some foul trouble and brought in their first sub of the game.
That had to be their strategy. It's
Like,
we're
yeah.
going to beat you, and we're going to beat you from dropping threes.
The problem is, I do wonder, looking back on it, if they regret that decision.
Yeah.
Because they very clearly ran out of gas. In the final 6 minutes of that game, they had nothing left. Now, I'm no expert on Siena. Maybe the drop-off from their starting 5 to their bench players is that significant to where they were like, we're going to lose those minutes by such a dramatic margin that it doesn't even make sense for us to try to put them in the game. But it is something that I do wonder a little bit about. Did they make a little bit of a mistake there by only going with their starting 5? But it made for a hell of a game.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were as close as they were, maybe they look back on it and say, we wouldn't change anything. Because the fact that we were able to keep that thing close into the final minute speaks to our strategy really working for us. They surprised the heck out of me. Biggest disappointment. Team you watched yesterday, and maybe it was in a winning effort, but a team that you watched and you're like, what's going on here? Was I overestimating who they are?
I'm going to let you cook on the team I think you're going to use, so I'll use the other one in the Siena game, and it's Duke. I mean, I looked at Duke coming into the game as the clear-cut, significantly better team than everyone else, and I still think they are. I think they were kind of punched in the face a little bit and took back of, like, what are we supposed to do now and have to adapt. But, like, it just didn't feel like they were able to dominate any portion of that basketball game. Like, I'm not saying Duke's not going to come out of that bracket still, but, like, depending on what UConn looks like, depending on what Kansas looked like, Michigan State I thought looked really freaking good. I'm not so certain Duke is going to be one of those Final Four teams.
Why did I believe in this stupid St. Mary's team?
And that's why I was going to let you cook.
Why did I believe in them?
I don't know.
Like, I don't know why I always fall for these teams when I hate watching them play basketball. Like, everything about me, every fiber of my being watches them play, and I'm like, you shouldn't be allowed to play this slow. It should not be legal to take this much time to get a shot off. It doesn't make sense to me why anybody would choose to play this way. And part of that is because when you play this way, it makes everything harder because every possession is that much more important. And when St. Mary's played that way, they scored all of 50 points yesterday against Texas A&M,
Barn burner.
and they got destroyed. Not once in that game did you feel like St. Mary's had a chance to win it. So I'm disappointed by them, but more importantly, I'm disappointed in myself that I allowed myself to get caught up in the moment and pick St. Mary's to win that game against Texas A&M.
Trust your gut more often, but I will defend you a little bit. Maybe you didn't trust the SEC as much, especially Texas A&M going into that matchup.
Yeah, maybe that's the other thing that we should get into here. What do you make of the SEC having as much success as it did on day one?
I really don't know, because all season long we have discussed how brutal the SEC was in terms of strength beyond their number one seed, and it just felt like all season long it kept tampering off. Maybe that's just because they're beating up on each other and the SEC is better than what they were. But what was it, 5 wins yesterday in the SEC?
I think 4. I think it was 4-1. Am I missing one?
A&M picked up Vandy.
Arkansas, Vandy, Texas, and Texas A&M. Who am I missing? Am I forgetting somebody?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, so those 4 won the games, and then Georgia got absolutely smoked.
Yeah.
But we all knew Georgia stunk. Nobody should be surprised by them not looking the part yesterday. I am surprised by how much they got beat by.
I thought it was going to be closer.
And that's where you're like the team that surprised you the most in a good way being Sloot makes total sense.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. I thought they had a real shot to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Winning it by as big of a margin as they did, that game was over with 15 minutes left to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was surprising.
It's weird, too, because talking about these SEC teams, like I'll be curious to see what A&M looks like versus Houston. I think Houston's probably the better team in that matchup, but I could see that going either way. We've talked about how the questions surround Houston. Like, I think Gonzaga beats Texas. I think Arkansas is able to beat up on High Point. And then from there, you're looking at some of these other SEC matchups determining what happens in this first round. But I wonder if we're back to after that first week of games and we're like, oh, yeah, see, that's what we believed about the SEC.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
How deep can
Texas won the first 4 game. That's where the other win comes from.
Oh, okay, that's right.
So
how deep do you think an SEC team gets?
I mean, I could see somebody winning it. Florida could win this tournament.
Really?
I think they could. Yeah. I wouldn't. I'm not picking them, but they're a number 1 seed.
I mean, I think they can get out of that region, and then it's. I guess you're right because Florida can beat Duke Duke after what I just saw Duke struggle with in the first round.
Yeah, I think they've got at least a shot to. I think what's going to be interesting is seeing how many of these teams are able to get to the Sweet 16. Like, can you get 4 or 5 SEC teams to the Sweet 16? Because that's what it typically looks like when you have like a historic great season from a conference. I would bet against it.
Yeah, I would too.
Personally, but that's the kind of thing that would be necessary for us to really buy in. Like in my bracket, I've got, I think, 2 SEC teams making it to the Sweet 16. So I'm very much selling the stock for the conference.
Yeah, I think I'm right there. I think I have 2
3.
or 3. I think I have 3 because I have Florida in the Sweet 16.
I have Florida, Vandy, and Bama.
Yes.
And I do not trust that Bama team. I don't like that pick at all. I would set the over-under at 2.5.
I don't think I have Bama. I think I have Arkansas. Yeah, so I think I have Arkansas on that one. But, yeah, to the point, you're only talking of a few of them there.
Alongside Alex Ferrario, I'm Brandon Kiley. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We are broadcasting live today out at Ray's Sports House in Soulard. Come by, say hello, grab yourself a cold Bud Light. Great place to take in the games, especially for this afternoon's action. Maybe you're going over to Session 2 for the St. Louis games. Come by here, stop by, grab yourself a cold Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Coming up in 15 minutes, we got our first opportunity to see Liam Doyle in a game for the Cardinals yesterday as part of that prospect breakout game. What did we learn about him? What did we learn about the other prospects that were on display yesterday? We'll get into that in 15 minutes. Mike McKenna, the former NHL goalie, joins us next here on 101 ESPN.
Broadcasting live from Ray's Sports House for the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
We're going between the pipes with former NHL goaltender Mike McKenna.
Save by Mike McKenna. How do you like me now?
Between the Pipes is refreshed by Macadoodle Spirits, fine wine, beer, and cigars. Now open in Darden Prairie.
Alongside Alex Ferrario, I'm Brandon Kiley. Happy to go up to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by our friend, former NHL goalie, Mike McKenna, joining us here on the show. Mike, appreciate the time, man. How you doing today?
Well, doing good here at Macadoodles. We've had a fun morning so far. It's going to be a great weekend. Look how nice it's going to be outside. And I'm going to Branson, so I'm excited.
Oh, my favorite spot, Mike. Where are we going to Branson for?
Well, we went to a tournament in Wisconsin where my daughter didn't get a chance to go to the water parks at Wisconsin Dells. So we're like, well, we're going to have to make it up to you. And so we decided we'll go to an indoor water park down there in Branson. Didn't know it was going to be 80 or 90 degrees.
Yeah.
So
might need to switch that one around a little bit.
Tomorrow. Yeah, and then Sunday go to Silver Dollar City and hope at home and get right back here to Macadoodles for Monday.
Nothing better than a little steal your dollar city on the weekend.
It'll be
Get
fantastic,
after it, Mike.
Especially when it's hot as hell.
Yeah.
You can't have a better weekend for it.
Spring break, too. It'll be perfect.
All right, Mike, it's going to be hot out there. The Blues are warming up as well.
No, it's terrible.
Coming out of the Olympic
They just
break.
lost to Calgary, man. That's terrible.
Hey, did they get a point?
That's fine. They got a point, but you
know.
can't say they're warming up.
My transition could
more
use
like
some work.
It's hot outside, but it's colder in the rink for the Blues as of late.
That would have been a much better.
I got you,
transition
Mike.
there.
I got you, Mike.
Let's start with the good, and that is Jimmy Snuggerud, who's been on this crazy pace since he's come back from his injury. We've talked about him a lot this year, Mike. I know you've always been a fan of his game and especially a fan of the shot. What have you seen that's unlocked his game over the last few weeks at this point?
Oh, it's really just his speed getting to space. It's not just comfortability, but you're seeing Snuggerud understand now that soft areas of the ice aren't a given at the NHL level. You've got to get there in a hurry. He's doing that, but he's also creating space for himself. He's gotten a bunch of respect out of the league now that wasn't there at the start because he's commanding having the puck. And, I've seen with Snuggerud the confidence to the neutral zone especially. Sometimes coming from a lower level when you really want to keep things as simple as possible, coming from college, you don't want to overdo it. So your natural instinct can be, I would see this all the time with players from college or major junior coming into the pro game, was they're so determined to make a good impression and not make a mistake that they get to the blue, they get to the neutral zone, it's just dump it in and go. And, I don't think Snuggerud was doing a bad job of that at the beginning, but he's really now confident carrying the puck through the neutral, getting into the offensive zone, and making something happen with it. And that's something when Dylan Holloway's at his best, Robert Thomas at his best, you see that from them. So Snuggerud's added that layer of the game. There's a bit of poise to it, but I think he's playing with more speed with the puck on his stick than we've seen before.
The other positive has really been Joel Hofer since the first month of the season, Mike. I've referenced this on postgame. After October, it was only 4 starts, but he had the worst save percentage in the National Hockey League. And from November 1st up until now, he's got the 3rd best save percentage in the National Hockey League. What changed for Joel Hofer in terms of his play from that first month to this last stretch?
At the first month of the year, he looked like a big man doing big man things that had always come easy. And I don't mean that with any disrespect. It's with size, with positioning, you can really rely on that as a bigger goaltender. And when your team's not playing great in front of you, which I think we can all say the Blues weren't playing great in front of him or Bennington at the start of the year, you can overcompensate for that by actually going the other direction and playing too conservatively. And that's something I think Hofer did at the start, was he was a little deeper in his net. He wasn't on the top of his blue paint, which isn't a bad thing. Like he's a big goalie. You still want to let the game come to you. But I thought he was just too passive. And I don't think that he's been out of control. I don't think he's been consciously trying to be this dynamic Andrei Vasilevsky splits all over the ice goaltender. But I do think there's been concerted effort for Joel to play closer to the top of the paint, and especially on penalty kills. I've seen him have his positioning to be closer to tips and screens, and it's having him. He's making better saves. Like, look at the last game against Calgary. I think we were midway through the 3rd period. It's a shot just off to his right side, and it's a deflection in front that he made look so easy because he was at the top of his crease, and all he did was shift 6 or 8 inches into it. He didn't have to have a big slide like he would. When you're deeper in the net, you have to cover more ground. And, my daughter, who's a goaltender, and I were both watching at the same time and went, wow, what a great save, when it looked very pedestrian to anybody watching. So Hofer's been able to rewrite the script so far. That first month was brutal for him, for everybody. And, I mean, you look now at his goals saved above expected. I mean, he's sitting in the top 20 in the league, almost top 15 when you're looking at Money Puck, and that's pretty big credit to how his game turned around.
We're talking to Mike McKenna here on 101 ESPN. We'll talk to him about what they have available this weekend for you as you're watching these NCAA tournament games. Stop by over at Macadoodles. They'll be able to help you out with anything that you're looking to get. We'll talk to him about that coming up here in just a moment. Mike, as you look down the stretch of this season, they've got fewer than 15 games left to play. What is the thing or things that you're most interested in watching as a Blues fan? We all know they're unlikely to make it to the playoffs at this point. I think that's an unrealistic expectation. But for you, what are some things that you're honing in on that are going to be of interest?
You know, I'm really curious to see how Dalibor Dvorsky looks from here on out. Being a scratch, having one goal in the last 12 games. That's a bit surprising, guys. I don't know if you guys had that same impression that Dvorsky was really on an upward trajectory, especially at the start, and we thought, wow, this is going to turn into something this year, especially out of the Olympics. You know, remember how good Dvorsky was at the Olympics. And then, man, he went over a month without a point. And, I mean, realistically for me, I still think there's plenty of upside here. You're dealing with a 20-year-old player. But for him to be successful, he's going to have to stick his nose in the pile more often. You know, you can't just wait for that puck to find you on the power play. He's going to have to find an extra layer of willingness to play greasy and to be able to get in and make sure the puck is on his blade more often. He's dangerous when it is, but it is interesting right now, even at 20. You know, we're looking at this in a high draft pick going, what can he turn out to be? Because right now, is he a second-line center? That seems like the ceiling. First line, I don't know. Does he turn into another P.S. Suter where he's a third-line center? I don't know what to expect here, and I think it's completely up to Dalibor what he's going to look like, but it's got to be at 5-on-5. He's got to push the pace. He's got to get involved in the play. He's really the player that's under my microscope in a good way because I know it's there. I just want to see it happen for him because he's going to be a big piece of this team in the future.
Outside of the player development side of it the rest of the way, Mike, I think the other uncertainty is, you know, what's going to happen with Jordan Kyrou. I know there was a lot of noise surrounding him and Robert Thomas and Colton Parayko at the deadline. I am curious what you've noticed about Kyrou and Buchnevich since the Olympic break, because I think combined, those two have a total of 2 goals since they've returned from the Olympics.
Yeah, it hasn't been where you expected, but I do think Buchnevich across the board has been better. It's just at this point, now you're going to be starting to give minutes to other players that are pretty even. You're not going to be relying on the same 3 and 6 players for the Blues here. So the tough part for Kyrou and Buch is going to be who's going to play with them to give them quality minutes that's going to be able to help them put points up. Can Drouin do it? Is he a guy? His neighbor's going to be the guy that goes with them? I think that's very much in flux. But I think we really want to get brutally honest here. If Jordan Kyrou wants to stay a Blue, he better have a damn good finish to this season. I think that's the reality. Because it may be already a foregone conclusion what the team thinks that they need to do, whether it's at the draft, whether it's at free agency, whenever that may be. You got a limited time frame here to really show that you can be a part of this. And I think you're kind of at that precipice for Jordan Kyrou. Buchnevich, I'm not sure, contractually, desire around the league, he works pretty hard. But Kyrou's the one that you really think something's got to happen here and really look like you belong and need to be here to continue to stay a Blue or make a case for it.
It's weird because Kyrou had that hot stretch.
Yeah.
And
right
he is
before the
just
Olympics.
Completely fallen off. I mean, he's been stuck on 14, 15 goals now for almost a month. What has happened in your estimation in the Jordan Kyrou game?
Well, it's always been up and down with him, but he also has to have a centerman who can get him the puck in good areas and with speed. And I thought this for years that it had to be Robert Thomas with Jordan Kyrou because nobody else has been able to put the puck on his blade where he needs it. We're seeing that now because Snuggerud has eclipsed Kyrou. Snuggerud is a more dangerous player than Jordan Kyrou. At this stage of the game, to me, disagree with me if you want, guys, But I think Jimmy Snuggerud is a more dangerous player than Jordan Kyrou.
I agree.
I also think he's a more trusted player. And I think that the cerebral factor of his game gives him an edge. So are the Blues going to develop a second-line center that's going to give Jordan Kyrou the puck the same way as Robert Thomas when Robert Thomas is a, sure bet 1-2 center? I don't know. I mean, it feels to me like Kyrou needs to be on a team that has somebody for that, and I just don't see it with the Blues right now.
Yeah, I mean, the danger of Jimmy Snuggerud is significantly more than Jordan Kyrou, and it's not just because of the offense. It's the style that they play. It's Snuggerud's more physical in the corners. Snuggerud's going to win more one-on-one battles, and Snuggerud's more reliable defensively, and that's why he plays with Robert Thomas, because not only are they a threat offensively, but they can go up against the other team's best lines, shut them down, but also generate more scoring opportunities.
Yeah, and you throw Holloway in the mix when he's there.
Right.
It's such a critical factor. You need your top line's got to be able to take a draw in your defensive zone. You have to. And Snuggerud, you're more apt to have him out there than Kyrou when the game's on the line. So it's a great point.
Mike McKenna is our guest each and every Friday here on BK and Ferrario. He does so on behalf of the fine folks over at Macadoodles. Mike, what can people expect when they walk through the doors? Maybe it's today, getting in this afternoon, as they get prepared for this weekend with the NCAA tournament.
Well, it's warm outside, so come in, get those canned cocktails. We're running pretty good specials. We've got neutral at $8.97. We got skimmers on sale. We've got really good RTDs, we call them, ready to drinks, canned cocktails at great prices here. I tell you what, if you want to get a great deal on Irish whiskey, though, we got 10, 11 days here left in March. We've got it featured on sale. Your Jamesons are all on sale. Sons of Aaron, Redbreast. I just got in an allocated Redbreast and a Muscatel finish today. I'm going to have some Penelope Havana on the shelves today as well, and some great tastings. We have tastings today from 3 until 7 o'clock, and then during the weekend from 1 to 5. There's always people sampling. Come try some things here at Macadoodles, corner of Bryan and Feisey Road, just north of the Page Extension. Friday and Saturdays when we do things best. Come try some stuff, get what you need for these tournament games coming up, and hopefully SLU can keep it rolling. What a performance yesterday, fellas.
All right.
Mike, appreciate the time as always, man. Looking forward to seeing you very soon. Enjoy your time out in Branson this weekend.
Hell
we'll talk
yeah,
with
Mike.
you again next week.
Branson, baby, we're going to Branson.
Branson bound, baby.
I'm bringing home a broom from Silver Dollar City. I'll see you, folks.
It's Mike McKenna joining us here on 101 ESPN as he does each and every Friday here on BK and Ferrario.
It's legitimately like when my family goes to Branson. That's how we speak to each other for like the 24 hours leading up to it. It's just how it works.
You should.
It's Disneyland in the Midwest is what I always say. You should check it out, man.
We got a text that called us idiots.
Oh, any more content to that, or is it just straight idiots?
I've been telling you idiots for 2 years that Kyrou sucks.
It's Harrison's brother's master, probably, who just got another phone and another number to try and throw it out
No, that
there.
one's from the 618.
Oh, okay, yeah.
To be fair, I'm not sure that Alex has ever been on the other side of that argument. I'm the one that's the idiot.
I think I've been arguing for the last 5 years that Kyrou's a good player. It's just you're not going to win substantial games with Kyrou.
Yep, and I have just been over here saying
and I have yelled at each other.
It'll be fine.
Yep.
Everything's going to be fine. He's a good player. You build around good hockey players, and in his last 10 games, he has 2 points and he's a -4.
Yeah.
So,
and meanwhile,
what am I going to do?
BK's tried to trade Ivan Barbashev. He's tried to trade all kinds of good players.
To be fair, so did the president of hockey
well,
operations.
It's bad decision. Bad decision, I would say.
He's Alex. I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We are broadcasting live from Ray's Sports House out in Soulard. Come on by, say hello, grab yourself some food, cold Bud Light. 101 ESPN giveaways going on today as well. When you walk through the door here at Ray's Sports House, it's all refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Coming up here in about 15 minutes, we'll dive into the junk drawer. But next, yesterday was a big-time day for the Cardinals prospects. What did we learn about them? Who got us most excited? We'll talk about that next year on 101.
Center.
Midwest Region Madness underway in St. Louis. I'm Bradford Bruns with the SportsCenter update powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Day 2 of the NCAA tournament has begun downtown. Right now, number 7 seed Kentucky leading Santa Clara 46-44. Tennessee State, Iowa State will meet at approximately 1:50 p.m. Enterprise Center style before Purdue Queens University. Then tonight's finale pits Mizzou against Miami. Yesterday, SLU pounded Georgia 102-77, while Illinois routed Penn 105-70. Weekend hockey, St. Louis facing off versus Vancouver tomorrow. Your puck drop set for 6 p.m. on 101 ESPN. This SportsCenter update has been presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Ray's Sports House for our tournament tip-off party.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Update from the NCAA tournament where Kentucky has found its rhythm. They are now up 48-44, 12 minutes to go in that one. They are leading over Santa Clara again with about 12 minutes left to play. Texas Tech is at the half up 40-35 against Akron. Akron looked rough to get things going there. They have started to play much better as that game has gone to the half. Only down by 5 at the half against Texas Tech. Just getting going early for Arizona versus Long Island in the Battle of the T. Arizona up 12-2 over Long Island right now, about 5 minutes away from Virginia tipping off against Wright State.
Poor Long Island couldn't have the Sienna start like they did against Duke yesterday.
Nope. Yeah, the opposite has taken place.
Unfortunately, that one's over already, Long Island.
So yesterday, Alex, we got to see the prospect breakout game, and I think this is a really cool thing that Major League Baseball is doing. If I'm not mistaken, I think next year it's supposed to be more of a tournament style.
That's really cool.
Which is fantastic. It's kind of similar to what the NHL does, where they've got that prospect showcase tournament that takes place in the summer.
I think that's so smart to do, and they should do more televised of those to where everyone can watch it.
Totally agree. Prospect rankings have become so huge, especially in Major League Baseball, that nowadays, like, you have an audience for this. You might as well take advantage of it. Hell, I think if baseball had like a separate spring training for just prospects, I think there would be an audience for that if it was like a 5 to 10 game schedule, like a round robin pool play with a tournament at the end. But they won't do that.
Those tournaments that the Blues have played in have always been so entertaining for me because you don't get to see these guys. The ones typically head back to juniors or college, so you don't see them perform, and you get to see them like immediately against other teams' prospects. So I'm with you. They need to do more of these, and I think a tournament-based thing would be even more exciting.
So yesterday, Cardinals got to take place in this. They did so against it was the Washington Nationals prospects. Liam Doyle got the start. And Alex, I want to start with the bad before we get to what was mostly good for the Cardinals prospects yesterday. He did not look good.
Yeah.
Didn't have his best stuff. Looked over-amped up for this game, which is not a surprise. That's kind of his personality. It's a reminder that while Liam Doyle is very exciting as a prospect, there is still a lot that needs to take place in his development before he's going to be ready to go at the big league level. He's got a big fastball, but he's got a lot of work on his secondary offerings to make him a big leaguer. So I want to use this as an opportunity to, do the thing that I tend to do, which is, hey, let's all calm down a little bit. I think this guy's going to be a very good starting pitcher, but it is going to take some time before he reaches the big leagues and certainly before he has a ton of success at the big league level. And yesterday was a reminder of that. The guy that I was more excited about with what he showed was Tanner Franklin. Is Tanner Franklin?
Yeah, Tanner Franklin.
The other pitcher from Tennessee who looked great in this game, and he's a guy that is transitioning back to becoming a starter after he was a reliever used at Tennessee that way. He's somebody to keep an eye on down in the minor league level this year, especially after some of the success that we saw this new regime have. with other young pitchers in the system a year ago.
Yeah, I saw our friend of the show, Kyle Reese, tweet out after Doyle's outing, the Cardinals lost that draft. And that, of course, was sarcasm from Kyle, but I would have to imagine there are some Cardinals fans that saw that and were like, oh, my God, he can't even pitch against the Nationals prospects.
Well, it was because the first at-bat of the day was Doyle versus Willits, who was one of the top prospects last year. And Doyle finished the first inning by giving up 4 earned runs on 4 walks and 2 hits. So it wasn't great.
It's funny, too, because, like, you got 3 strikeouts, and I think that's at least the most appealing part of it with Doyle. But, yeah, you're right. Like, this is the start of a long career you hope for Liam Doyle, that you can't go off of a spring breakout game. But overall, I mean, like, the pitching side of things, you're right. Tanner Franklin was the one that was probably the most exciting from it. But, I mean, with Liam Doyle, it's like, look, this is the first real look at it, and this is, I mean, you mentioned it to how amped up he gets and how intense he is with these. This is the first, like, actual action for him in terms of going up against the other side. You get to be the starter. I have to imagine there was more adrenaline that was carrying him more than whatnot, so I took nothing from his start in that one.
Well, I took it as a cautionary tale. I really did. I think that it's going to take a little bit of time with Doyle, and that's okay. So I did take something from it, maybe more so than what you did, Alex.
But he looked good last season down the stretch, didn't he?
I think it was just one start.
Oh, was it? I thought he made
like
a couple in Double-A. Was it a high A?
I think he's going to take some time.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he is as polished as some of the other guys that have flown through the system. And I'm not even just talking about the Cardinals, but like top 10 picks that have reached the big leagues very quickly. It's all right if he is not up in the big leagues at any point in 2026. In fact, right now, that would be my expectation, is that he does not reach the big leagues this year. Allow him the proper amount of time and space to be able to get ready. I think this is also part of why they did not have him at big league camp this year.
Yeah.
Because the Cardinals also know it's going to be a while before this guy's ready to go.
Yeah.
On the hitting side of things, man, that's where the excitement was. Yesterday, once again, for like the 100th time this spring, J.J. Weatherholtz was awesome, did everything that you could have asked for out of a legit top 10 prospect in Major League Baseball. And the 2 guys that had me most excited based on what they did yesterday, Alex, is one, Baez once again hitting a massive home run. This kid is really impressive.
9 straight games with a home run.
All the tools you could ask for. He's got the speed. He's got the power. He's a good outfielder. Like, this is really exciting what he's doing. And what they were able to get out of him last year gives me excitement on what the plan is for Ryan Mitchell, who we have not seen yet in a Cardinals professional baseball game at any level. He was a guy they selected last year. I said this yesterday going into the game, that he was somebody that I was excited to see. They selected him in the 2nd round last year. He doesn't appear in a game for them, and so now we're finally going to get an opportunity to see what he can do. He's a high school player. Again, it's going to take some time, but if they were able to, in 1 year, turn Baez into that version of himself after being a very raw, toolsy high school player, I want to see what they can do with Ryan Mitchell as well. He's another guy that has that kind of upside.
Yeah, you feel like the development is in a really good spot in terms of where the Cardinals are at, in terms of how they're turning these guys out. I'm with you on those 2. Rodriguez didn't do much in terms of get you excited, other than I think he picked up a sac fly or in terms of RBI. Ty Pete's the one for me that I think I'm growing more and more intrigued by. The last spring training game we saw him in, he hit a home run. That breakout game, you see the speed and you see the ability when he makes contact of how hard he can hit.
And his swing's pretty.
And I think for how dry the Cardinals' outfield position has been in terms of the last 10 years and unsuccessful ability to turn these guys out, when you're seeing Baez and now you see a guy like Ty Pete that they acquired in this trade, that's what gets you a little bit more excited. It's like, oh, man, finally, are we going to see – because Baez is just a monster when he's at the plate. And it's like, oh, my gosh, they have a beast. And then Ty Pete with that pretty swing and his speed, you're starting to see the returns of like, oh, damn, they might be starting to find guys in the outfield for once.
The hope is a few years from now, Baez, Pete, and Mitchell can be your starting outfield.
Yeah,
what are the odds of that? Low. Because
you get one of them.
Yeah, hopefully one of them becomes exactly what right now you're expecting them to be. But the odds are against most of them working out. But, man, the tools are there, and they're betting on potential now. They're betting on tools in a way that they hadn't been previously.
Yeah.
They used to bet on a lot of low floor, low ceiling, high floor type of players. And now they've got some guys that have the ability to be legitimate game breakers at the major league level. So it is an exciting time to see what they've got coming through the minor league system. Alongside Alex Ferrario, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In 10 minutes, the Blues are now where the Vancouver Canucks found themselves about a year ago. Are they going to fall into the same trap that Vancouver did at this point last year? We'll get into that coming up here in about 10 minutes. The Junk Drawer is next here on 101.
for the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Let's open it up. The Junk Drawer with BK and Ferrario.
All right, Alex, I've got a crime story gone wrong for our junk drawer today.
Most crime stories are the ones that go wrong, so I love this.
So this gentleman lives in the New York area, or at least he performed the crimes in the New York area. He goes into a bank, as you typically would probably, and gives the teller a note.
Yes.
The teller states the obvious, hey, I'm here to rob your bank. Give me the money and nobody gets harmed.
The
right?
most polite way
Classic.
to rob a bank ever is, here's a note that says, please give me your money.
100%. So he goes in, hands them the note. First place he goes to, walks out with $265.
That's it?
That's it.
That's what he's going to jail for?
So he then goes to the next bank, of course, about an hour later. Goes to another bank.
Can I have a follow-up already? Did he get his note back from the first teller?
I would assume so, because at the second bank had the same note, put it across the table. They gave him $300.
Give me the money and put it in the bag,
So
and also give
then,
me the note.
He goes home for the night. He's got his $600 for the 2 places that he went to that day.
Hell yeah.
Decides, you know what? We're doing it again. So the next day, goes to a place, gets $20. Goes to another place that same day, gets nothing. Then the next day, he goes sleeps on it, says, you know what? I've only made $620.
Yeah.
I'm going to need to go make a little bit more. Goes to
lucrative
another
career.
bank. We're on number 5 now. Again, gets a whole lot of nothing. And then finally, 6th bank goes in, and now he gets caught. And unfortunately, after 6 tries, comes away with all of $600
Oh, my gosh.
over multiple days in the New York City area and gets arrested. Well, don't you after day one, don't you feel like, you know what, this is God telling me I shouldn't try to rob banks. I came away after robbing 2 banks in one day, got away with both of them, and got all of $600 to my name.
You're right, but also in their line of thinking, I got away with it 2 days in a row. I'm invincible.
No.
I'm invincible. I just went to sleep robbing 3 or 4 banks.
Yeah, and
I'm going to keep doing this.
Definitely after day 2, when you come away with all of $20. You rob 2 banks and get $20 to your name. That's not a great day's work.
What's the
you could
cutoff
have done
amount?
better standing outside of like Walgreens or Walmart and saying, I'm really sorry, man, but I've
money.
come on tough times. Can you grab me a 12-pack from inside a Bud Light, please? That's roughly the same amount of money as what he ended up making
What's
here.
the amount of money that you get away with it and you go to sleep and you're like, you know what? I'm content. I got away with it. I'm going to sleep with this and move forward.
Well, first of all, I probably wouldn't try to rob a bank. But if you do, in the scenario that you chose to do so, $5 grand? $5 grand? Feel like if you had $5 grand, you feel pretty good about the way that your day went?
I feel like if I robbed a bank and got away with $60, I'd be like, oh, this is awesome. I don't even care about the money. It's more the bragging rights. I got away with this. That's where I'd get caught. I'd brag to people and be like, just robbed a bank.
Which is exactly why you wouldn't get away with it. He's Alex Ferrario. I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up here in about 15 minutes, what are the keys to the game tonight for Mizzou? And do they need to win tonight in order to avoid those prove-it expectations in March in the future? We'll talk about that coming up here in about 15 minutes. But next, the Blues are now where the Canucks found themselves a year ago. How do they avoid making the same mistake that led to where the Canucks are today? We'll get into that next year on 101 ESPN.
BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Ray's Sports House for our tournament tip-off party.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
All right, Alex, so you go back a few years. Vancouver Canucks looked like one of the best teams in the NHL. They've got JT Miller. They've got Elias Pettersson. They've got this young whippersnapper and Quinn Hughes, who on our show, I remember we were talking at the time. Who was it?
Scott Perunovich.
Scott Perunovich, who Joey Vitale said, man, that guy, he moves like Quinn Hughes. Now, he didn't become Quinn Hughes, but he moved like him at the time.
Didn't move like him, though.
And then it all went to hell. And over the last couple of years, it's been an absolute disaster for Vancouver. They went from a team that scored 100 points in a season to a team that is very likely going to be selecting number 1 overall this year. And it all happened because their best dudes couldn't get along, and the team started to disintegrate around them.
Yeah.
Brock Besser had that unbelievable season. He's kind of been mid ever since. And then they decide, you know what, we've got a fork in the road moment. We can either trade Elias Pettersson, or we can trade JT Miller. Or we can trade both. But we cannot keep doing what we've been doing. Mm-hmm. They decided at the time to trade JT Miller. It sure looks like they regret that decision. They would like to have JT Miller back, and then maybe they wouldn't have had to trade Quinn Hughes, which is what they ultimately decided to do. So now they don't have JT Miller. They don't have Quinn Hughes. They do have Elias Pettersson, who has not been the same player ever since. How do the Blues avoid falling into those same pitfalls where they had a really good second half of the season last year and you kind of fall for it, and then you get stuck and now you have to make a choice, and the Blues appear to be making their choice here pretty soon, and their three that they're choosing between are Kyrou, Thomas, and Parayko. Mm-hmm. How do they avoid making the same mistake that Vancouver apparently made?
By not making the wrong decision on the player you trade away. I have heard from multiple people that were around that Vancouver Canucks team, and I've heard stories that were around that Canucks team that said they traded the wrong guy in terms of when they moved on from JT Miller. They lost that competitive fire that he had, and Elias Pettersson wasn't really that type of player, although he was the young 100-point performer. You went with the talent upside versus the attitude that you wanted around your team. And, as you pointed out, the moment they moved on from JT Miller, the competitiveness was lost with the roster. Then they moved on from Quinn Hughes, and now it looks like they traded Connor Garland, and now they might be moving on from Brock Besser, Jake DeBrusk, and maybe Elias Pettersson. They've gone into a full rebuild because they chose the wrong player. I don't know what that looks like. Maybe they move Pettersson instead of JT Miller, and the team is still competitive. Maybe they have pieces around. But and this is the part I find fascinating, if you trade Robert Thomas, are you making the Elias Pettersson, JT Miller decision to where, like, you're trading the wrong guy. You're trading the guy that's going to go out there and be competitive. He's got that fire in him for the team. Maybe he doesn't show it verbally, but he is that competitive player and makes your team better, i.e. what JT Miller was. Or do you opt to stay with Elias Pettersson, i.e. Robert Thomas, and the decision of moving on other pieces from your roster, whether it's Kyrou or Parayko, the team takes the spiral? I think I would go with the first option there, where I think Robert Thomas might be the JT Miller that you don't trade away, to where it's, hey, he's going to lift the ceiling of your team, move off from some of the other pieces, and let that competitiveness continue to thrive in your organization. But to me, that's how you avoid the Vancouver Canucks. And I don't know what the answer is because I don't know the ongoings in the locker room. It was pretty evident Miller was the better piece. You didn't want to move on from him. Pettersson was the one that had issues, although Miller looks like he's had issues with the Rangers since he's been there. But if you trade the wrong guy, the team might crumble around. And that's the part that I really don't know where they go with it.
Something that I really do wonder about, I wonder if this was inevitable for them. And they were just always going to have to end up in this position. And they had 1 year where it magically all came together.
Talking Vancouver?
Yeah. Because you look back at that, like, JT Miller is not that same player anymore. With the Rangers this year, he's not that guy either. So even if they believe, hey, we might have traded the wrong guy, sure, you'd still be bad with JT Miller. He hasn't been playing particularly well in New York either.
He was really good those 2 years, though. He was 30-goal, 82 points, 30-goal, 103 points. And then the next season, it was 9 goals and 35 points. Still almost a point per game player, but the team crumbled around, and then they were like, we got to move on from him.
Yeah, I'm talking about like since he's been traded.
Oh, yeah,
Once
yeah,
you
yeah.
traded him, he hasn't been
Yeah.
a guy that you're like, yeah, if we had that here, everything would be A-okay. He's been as bad as Elias Pettersson has, at least statistically. Elias Pettersson that year had 90 points and looked like a superstar-level player. Quinn Hughes was unbelievable, and when those guys were on the ice, they were unstoppable offensively. But they never reached that height again, in part because Brock Besser never reached that height again. That was a guy who that season had 40 goals, went to the market, and a lot of teams across the league clearly viewed it the way that I think probably we did too, where it's like, yeah, that was a mirage. Brock Besser is not a 40-goal scorer. His previous career was 25-16, 23-23, 18. Now, since then, 25-16. He's a 25-goal scorer, not a 40-goal scorer.
Yeah.
So it was all a mirage that season, and sometimes this happens where things go so incredibly well. You're riding this wave. I would say Winnipeg was kind of this a year ago as well. And then you fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. And so you pay all of the dudes that allowed you to have that unbelievable season instead of saying, you know what, let's look internally here for a second. Was that real? Or did we get a little carried away and now we're going to live to regret some of the decisions that we make because of it? I think that's what happened with Vancouver. So for the Blues, I think this offseason what you've got to do is take a longer lens at what you're looking at here. Because if you fall for the trap of what took place last year after the Four Nations face-off and maybe what's happening right now after the Olympic break, you could convince yourself that you're close and that you can build around this core when the reality is you can't.
Yeah.
This core isn't good enough, and it's proven to you that it's not good enough for years. So don't treat them differently. That's what Vancouver did. They started to believe in their core, bought into what they had done for one season instead of what the entire rest of their history had been with the Vancouver Canucks.
Now, see, what I find fascinating about everything that you just said, and I know how you feel about Robert Thomas, but what you just said, I wonder if they look at it and say that's why we're trying to trade Robert Thomas. Because we're not going to fall for what he's doing with Jimmy Snuggerud and Dylan Holloway. We're not going to fall for what they did last season and said, well, he was injured and this is where they lacked. Because going down the path that you just said, you don't fall for the last 4 years of these guys underperforming until the final 2 months of the season and then going on a tear. Do they look at it and say, he's not a part of the core, he's not a part of the solution, move on, bring in younger pieces, and build around that core?
See, I would go the opposite way. I would say if you look over the last 5 years, Robert Thomas is a plus 50 on the St. Louis Blues. Think about how bad this team has been in the last 5 years. The fact that he is a plus 50 when he's on the ice over the last 5 seasons speaks to the fact that he's not your problem.
Agreed.
He, this season, for the St. Louis Blues, a team that is likely going to pick in the top 5 of this year's draft, is a plus 12, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how hard that is
Playing the
on
most
this
minutes.
year's team to be in that role and to continue to be a plus 12 while on the ice. To put that in perspective, the only players on the team that are more than a plus 3 this season are Thomas, Suter, who's just, God, that guy's a good hockey player, and Jimmy Snuggerud.
Mm-hmm.
Suter's a plus 5, Snuggerud's a plus 4. Nobody else on the team's better than a plus 3. Thomas is a plus 12. I don't think this is a mirage for them. I think we have seen it for the majority of the last 5 years. There are segments of any given season where it doesn't look good for him. Most of the time it's because of injuries. So I would say he's the one that, yeah, I believe in what I've seen from it. And I don't think I'm falling for just a hot stretch here.
And I am 100% with you. We've talked about this, the decision that they go. And I was on the side of, look, you may trade Robert Thomas if you get the pieces back in return. But in the same Vancouver Canucks light, I wonder if they looked at Elias Pettersson the same way Blues are looking at Robert Thomas and saying, well, look at what he's done. Take away what last year was, but 89 points, 100 points, 68, 21 and 26, 66 and 68, and he was a 30-goal scorer 3 times. They looked at it and said, well, he's not the problem. He's young. He's a dynamic number 1 center. He's a 100-point player. He makes everyone else around you better. JT Miller was the 30-year-old where they're like, that's not going to continue. They went with Elias Pettersson to where, again, I go back to what I said at the beginning. I was told by multiple people they made the bet on the wrong player and said they should have stuck with JT Miller. Maybe that competitiveness keeps Quinn Hughes around, keeps Brock Besser performing well, but they went with the guy that wasn't the piece. And again, I'm comparing apples to oranges because I don't think Robert Thomas is the same head case as Elias Pettersson is, but that's why I find this decision fascinating, because if they say, like, hey, look, we're still moving on from Robert Thomas, we're not falling for it, you either are making the right decision because he's got a little Pettersson in him that we don't know about, or you're making the absolute wrong decision, and he was JT Miller. That was the face of that team that kept them afloat.
He's Alex Ferrario. I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. The Blues back in action against the Canucks tomorrow night. Alex will be on the pregame coverage for that one right here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Quick update on the scores across the NCAA tournament. We've got a tight one going down to the stretch between Santa Clara and Kentucky. There is 24 seconds remaining. Santa Clara up as the 10 seed against Kentucky, 70-68. That one was expected to be tight. It has absolutely been close. 24 seconds remaining. Santa Clara up by 2. In the early going, Arizona is blowing out Long Island 38-18. Does not look like that's going to be a Siena situation. Texas Tech up by 8, 59-51 against Akron. Roughly 12 minutes left to play in that one. And finally, we got an upset watch, Alex. Virginia is trailing Wright State. It's early, 11 minutes left to play in the first half, but Wright State is up on this one, 19-13 over the 3-seeded Virginia.
And one of Virginia's players just walked off the court with his hand. He's getting worked on by the trainer right now. I didn't see which one it was, but an injury to the starting 5 for Virginia early on.
There you go. Virginia rates very high in a lot of key metrics. However, I am absolutely convinced, playing slow the way that they do, playing slow the way that St. Mary's does, it is a hindrance to your ability to win in the NCAA tournament. Nobody can convince me otherwise. And yes, it's anecdotal. And yes, Virginia did win a national championship once upon a time playing this way. They've also lost in the first round as a 1 seed. So I rest my case. Alongside Alex, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We'll continue to keep you apprised with any of the updates as we get them here in the NCAA tournament. But coming up next, what are the keys tonight in the tournament for Mizzou against Miami? How do they advance to the second round? We'll talk about it next year on 101.
from Ray's Sports House for the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Boy, you couldn't have asked for a better finish in the first game of the day here in St. Louis. Santa Clara gave up a backdoor cut by Kentucky. Kentucky goes up. Then Santa Clara gets it back with about
9 seconds.
10 seconds remaining. They've got to go the full court. They've got a couple of timeouts. Choose not to use them. Get a good look. Hit a three. They're up by 3. And then Kentucky, with 2 seconds remaining, inbounds the ball, no timeouts, gets it just beyond half court, pulls up as time expires, 0.3 left on the clock.
With a dude in his face.
Drains it with a hand in his face. We are in overtime. Santa Clara versus Kentucky, 73-all. About 4.5 minutes left to play. We just started things in overtime. We'll keep you updated on that one. That is so far. We're early, obviously, already game of the day today.
Oh, yeah, by far, which is so ironic because yesterday the first game that tipped off was the exciting one as well. That was the one that was down to the buzzer, too.
TCU Ohio State.
Yeah,
yep.
So that was the one that went down to the buzzer. So, like, you talk about starting off each day of tournament action with nail-biters. This one, of course, TCU and Ohio State didn't go to overtime, but still came down to a couple of last-second drops, and then this one in overtime. That's the way you kick off both days of the tournament. Plus, doing it in St. Louis is even more
100%.
Awesome.
Akron, by the way, making things interesting. 66-60 is the score in that one against Texas. That's your first 5-12 matchup of the day today. 9 minutes left to play in that one. Texas Tech up by 6. It's 77-76 Kentucky over Santa Clara right now. By the way, Wright State still holding a very slim lead now against Virginia as the 14 seed. 7 minutes left to play in that one. All right, Alex, tonight, the last game of the day in the first round. The last first round game to be played is Missouri versus Miami. It will tip off here in St. Louis as well. What are your keys to this one, man? What's the thing you're going to be looking for? Miami is a 1.5-point favorite. These teams are basically mirror images of one another. Neither of them shoot free throws very well. Both of them have some issues with turnovers. What are you looking for, though, that will determine this game for Mizzou?
I mean, to me, it comes down to your best players showing up, Mark Mitchell and T.O. Barrett. I think as we saw down the stretch with Mizzou, the games that either T.O. Barrett or Mark Mitchell took over were the games that Mizzou pulled off the win. And the games where one of them, I think it was the last game that they played or second to last game, T.O. Barrett had 2 points, something like that. That, to me, it's very much like what SLU has been, to where it's like, look, what's Robbie Avila going to be, because he's kind of the identity of that squad. Mark Mitchell specifically, I think, is kind of an identity piece, and if he can be significant for you, that to me is what turns the tide for Mizzou in a very even matchup against Miami.
Yeah, it's all about your guard play. T.O. Barrett was terrible in that NCAA tournament game. Or SEC tournament game, rather, against Kentucky. He did not have a good day. He was out of control in that one. That's my biggest fear with him. I like T.O. Barrett a lot. I think he's the kind of guy that just creates offense, just instant offense when he steps onto the court. The problem is sometimes he gets so out of control and so overly amped up that he just goes to the basket with no clear thought of what happens if his shot's not there. And that's when the turnovers starts to come in big numbers, and you can feel it early. So in the first 4 minutes of this game against Miami, that is the number one thing that I'm going to be watching. What does T.O. Barrett do?
Yeah.
Is he under control? Is he finding his spots? Is he able to get other guys involved in the offense? Because if he is, I think you could see a pretty good day for him. The other factor to keep in mind here is Jaden Stone, who's really been going through it lately. He had such a great, really first 3 months of the season. He was such a nice find for Dennis Gates in the transfer portal. He didn't think that he was going to be playing college basketball this year. And when he came back from the injury, he completely changed the way that Missouri was playing. His points in those games, 2016, 22, 2013, 20. Lately, here's his point totals, Alex. 5, 11, 9, 8, 0, 10.
Oh, my gosh.
it's a different player.
Yeah.
He has not been involved in the offense, and when he's not involved and he's inefficient, the offense really suffers. So guard play is the number one thing to watch in this game for Mizzou. If they can get a decent game out of T.O. Barrett and or Jaden Stone, at least one of those two showing up, I think they're going to have a pretty good chance to win. Problem for me is I just don't know how much I can trust either of those things to happen.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. Like, if Mizzou doesn't have one of those three, they have nothing. And I don't know Miami.
I think it's two of the three. You need Mark Mitchell.
Okay,
plus
yeah, you're right.
one of the other two.
Does Miami have a bench?
Miami has a really solid. Miami's basically Mizzou. They're
so they're
more or
not
less
deep
the same.
either. You're talking about two guys you need to. So that's really what this one comes down to. Who's the one that can get two of their best players out there consistently, which I know kind of sounds like Captain Obvious, but that's been Mizzou's MO all season. If they have two of those three, Mark Mitchell, T.O. Barrett, Jaden Stone, they have success because there's not much else to rely upon with them.
All right, the other thing to keep in mind tonight, it's the ghost of tournaments past. Missouri has been so bad in March, man. So bad in March. You look back at it. This is dating back to my freshman year at Mizzou when they lose to Norfolk State in the first round in what is one of my worst memories as a Missouri fan.
Yep.
It was miserable. I did not believe they were going to lose that game until they actually missed the final shot of that game. The entire game I was like, oh, they'll be fine, and then they lost. The next year they lose to Colorado State as a 9 seed. 2018 they lose as an 8 seed against Florida State. They were never really even in that game. Then they lose to Oklahoma in 2021. They win against Utah State, had a really nice showing in that one, then find a way to lose to the 15-seeded Princeton in the second round. Last year they lose to Drake, and now here we are again. This time you're playing against a Miami team that is more or less a mirror image of yourself. What's it going to look like, man? Because I think Missouri fans have arrived in the place that a lot of Cardinals fans had been over the last 5+ years. Yeah, you make it to the tournament, but what do you do when you get there? For Cardinals fans, it was, yeah, you made it to the playoffs, but nobody believes in this. You're just going to get swept out of the playoffs once you get there. Winning today, I think, would go a long way for Mizzou fans to just start to gain a little bit more of a belief that, all right, there is something more here. Dennis is not going to get out-coached once you get to the NCAA tournament by these other teams that have a similar level of talent to you. So I think there's a lot on the line today, man. For Mizzou fans, just to have this belief, especially heading into an offseason where you've got this unbelievable recruiting class coming in, and there's going to be really high hopes for the team next year, but will anybody believe in it that it can work in March if they're not able to have success this time around? Because that would then be, 7 of the last 8 times that you've been here, you fail to win in the first round.
Yeah, I think if they can get a win in this one tonight, it allows you to dream a little bit of what next year can be for Dennis Gates and Mizzou, because you showed the ability to win in the tournament, which there's been questions of, but 2, you're bringing in significant talent in terms of their recruiting class that will be available to Dennis Gates next year, and you've seen him pull off a win where I don't think a lot of people would expect you to. If you don't, then you're right. I think the narrative goes to Dennis Gates of next season being none of this matters until you get to March, because we've seen this before. You start off poorly. You can pick up some big wins down the stretch. You'll get in, but you can't win in March. Again, it's not the same because Eli Drinkwitz is more like the narrative of you can't win a big game. But I do think it's kind of the same conversation of you're going to look at it and say it doesn't really matter until you show me something that you've been unable to do in your time with Mizzou.
It's not looking good for Santa Clara.
No.
They're down 83-79. There's 30 seconds left to play. They're getting shots blocked left and right. They're losing loose balls left and right as well. It's been a rough go of it in overtime for Santa Clara. Kentucky is now at the line to shoot as well.
All the momentum went to Kentucky when they made that shot.
Kentucky potentially has a chance to go up by 6 with 31 seconds left to play. It is not going well for Santa Clara. Akron, though, is only down by 5. 7.5 minutes left to go in that one. It's 67-62. Again, 7.5 minutes left to go. So we might have another game where you've got an underdog with a chance late against Texas Tech.
And Long Island, by the way, is getting their butts kicked.
Going to the half, Arizona up 53-29 against Long Island. Those are your updates on the scores as we see them right now. Wright State, by the way, up 34-32 with 3 minutes left to play in the first half as well. With Alex Ferrario, I'm Brandon Kiley. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. We do this each and every Friday. You give us 4 different options. We'll tell you which one's got to go here on BK and Ferrario.
ESPN Sports Center.
Midwest region steps into spotlight. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is powered by Universal Windows Direct. Tennessee, Mizzou, and Miami will close out round one of NCAA tournament. Tip-off scheduled for 9:10 p.m. at Enterprise Center. Right now, though, said venue has Tennessee State, Iowa State on deck. Kentucky has already defeated Santa Clara moments ago, actually, 89-84, an overtime affair there. Elsewhere, Arizona crushing Long Island University, 53-29. Virginia trailing Wright State, 36-35. Puck St. Louis squares off against Vancouver tomorrow night. This SportsCenter update was presented by Universal Windows Direct.
BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Ray's Sports House for our tournament tip-off party.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
This is BK and Ferrario. Time now for One's Gotta Go. We offer up the talking points, and you get to pick which one's gotta go on 101 ESPN.
All right, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for One's Gotta Go. Things are going poorly for the underdogs right now. So we just saw Kentucky pull away and ultimately win late against Santa Clara. I want to get into that game here in just a moment. We have also now seen Texas Tech just start to rout Akron. It's 80-64 with 4 minutes left to play in that one. It's also a tie game between Virginia and Wright State. They're tied at 36 with about a minute and a half left to play in the first half. In that one, Wright State actually just took the lead once again with a 39-36. Let's go back to that Kentucky game, Alex, and we'll get to One's Gotta Go here in just a moment. As I had mentioned, there was a crazy finish to regulation. Kentucky hits a shot. Then Santa Clara takes it the other way. They hit a three to go up by 3. 2 seconds left. Kentucky inbounds the ball. It's frenetic. A lot of stuff going on. Again, 2 seconds left when they inbound the ball, though. Up by 3. Hindsight is 20/20. I understand that. Is that a spot where you think they should have fouled up by 3? Or is that too much of a hindsight?
No, you should have fouled. I think watching the replay of it, it felt like they were riding that high of they couldn't believe that basket went in. And the coach even jumped up, and you could see him kind of yelling towards the official. You could see him yelling towards his team. Yeah, I would have fouled there, and I think you probably should have fouled there. Even for how lofty of an expectation it was, he was going to knock down that 3, take the chance of that away and put him to the line.
I will say this. That finish is so much better than what it would have been had you fouled.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
just
yeah.
Aesthetically, as a fan of basketball that just wants to watch a good finish, a good game, I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
Because it's more enjoyable, and we got a much better moment out of that. That's what I hate about fouling late in these games, the intentional foul stuff. It just ruins the flow of the basketball game. Mm-hmm. That's what it should look like, where you've got to go back and forth, big shot after big shot, and it increases in the onions every time that you get one of the shots. But if we're just talking about win or lose, what's the best odds? I think Santa Clara probably would have had a better shot to win that game had they fouled up by 3 with Kentucky driving to the other side of the court. Yeah. That being said, just to also give credit to the kid for making the shot. It's ridiculous. Totally. It's an absolutely absurd shot. He's at the logo. He's got a guy with a hand in his face. It's an insane shot to be able to make.
He kind of had 2 guys with him because he had one player running laterally with him, and then, of course, the other guy that jumped up to get a hand in the face. It was an incredible shot. You're 100% right. If I'm in the crowd at Enterprise for that, I'm booing if they foul there because, let's make this entertaining. So what a finish it was. That sucks for Santa Clara, and it felt that the moment Kentucky made that basket, Kentucky was winning because Santa Clara couldn't believe what happened. Even their coach, you could tell, like the soul left his body once that basket went in.
All right, let's go ahead and get into one's got to go. You give us 4 different options. We'll tell you which one's got to go. Text line is 314-399-9646. YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. By the way, on the Fast Lane today, they are expecting to have Jim Montgomery, the Blues head coach, coming up in the 3 o'clock hour. So stay tuned for that coming up today on the Fast Lane. From the manager, Lou Brown, which one's got to go? The NBA Finals, the NCAA Championship game, the World Series, or the Super Bowl? Which one's got to go, Alex?
This one's easy, NBA Finals. All of the other ones I'd keep in there. I mean, even World Series, although at times it can be boring, I feel like they're always some type of storyline that's fun to watch, to where I don't know if I have that with the NBA.
I would say if I'm getting rid of one of these, it'd probably be the NCAA Championship game, and allow me to explain. I get potentially 7 games in the finals, 7 games in the World Series. The Super Bowl is one that I'm just not getting rid of. It's that's the game that I look forward to every year, and 100 million other people do as well. So if I have to get rid of one, I'll get rid of the one game that is a true, you only get one game out of it. And it's not the Super Bowl. So that would be the one that I would get rid of. I did see, though, yesterday, the World Baseball Classic had more viewers than the NBA Finals outside of the final game from last year.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy, man, because the NBA is, like, talked about much more nationally.
Oh, yeah.
I think people sometimes overestimate just how much baseball is this dying sport or that there's not an audience for it. No, it is. It just is more regional than what the NBA is, where that's a national game and you have a lot more national spotlight on it. But Major League Baseball is doing A-OK. Baseball's in a good spot right now.
That's why I also think the baseball does it right. We've had the conversations of moving into July. I think it's good to put right there because people are so desperate for competitive baseball at that point, with spring training still kind of carrying on. That's a smart place to put it, and that's why I think the viewership goes that high, is because people want to see that brand of baseball.
All right, from the 636, one's got to go Spring Activity Edition. Golf, the zoo, happy hour on a patio, or a baseball game? I'll get rid of golf because I'm not a golfer.
Yeah, I love golf, and I'm going this weekend, and it's my first time out there, and I can't wait. So I guess I would say happy hour on a patio because all those other ones are fun.
From the 636, one's got to go Big Sports Championships Edition. Super Bowl, Masters, March Madness, European Soccer Champions League, rather.
Yeah,
for me, it's the soccer.
I've just never really gotten into Euro Soccer or Euro Soccer's league, so yeah, that would be out for me.
From Saffron Piranha, one's got to go SEC Edition: Mizzou, Arkansas, South Carolina, or Texas A&M. For me, it'd be Arkansas. Get them out of here.
In terms of how much you hate them?
They just add nothing to the league.
Okay.
They're bad at basically everything. Their fan base thinks they're good every year, and they're not. Arkansas can go.
Somebody's a little sour.
They add nothing to the league.
I'll take your word for it. I have no passion attached to it like you do.
Yeah, I'm good. Texas A&M is at least good at football.
That's fair. What's South Carolina good at?
They used to be good at football. And
used to be is still good.
They have more recently than Arkansas been good at football and basketball.
Okay.
So I'll give them that.
Just because I don't like you at times, I'll go South Carolina. Get out of here. Keep Arkansas.
He's Alex. I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, we'll hit the rewind, give you our final thoughts on the NCAA tournament from yesterday, what we think about Illinois and SLU going into the weekend. We will also discuss what we are expecting from Mizzou later on today and go through some of our picks. Somebody on the text line said, BK, tell us who you like tonight so I can do the opposite. I will tell you who I like tonight coming up next here on 101.
Broadcasting live from Ray's Sports House for the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Let's run it back with a daily rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Loom, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
He's Alex, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
That 101 ESPN app is super easy to use. It is free to download, and that is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. We've been broadcasting today out at Ray's Sports House in Soulard. The Fast Lane will be doing the same thing coming up here in 15 minutes. So if you want to come by, say hello, grab yourself a cold Bud Light. This is the place to do it. The NCAA tournament, they've got a ton of screens going on right now. You'll be able to see all of the action. Maybe get your Underdog app going as well. This is the place to do it out here at Ray's Sports House in Soulard. Our March broadcasts are brought to you by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. All right, Alex, to finish out the show today, let's start with what we saw last night. Illinois. Unbelievable performance by them. Just really never in doubt. T-Bone was texting us early on there. He was like, I've been more impressed by SLU than what I'm seeing from Illinois.
Well, yeah.
And we both looked at it and we're like, yeah, because SLU was having one of the best games of their season. Illinois is fine. They were able to take their starters out with like 10 minutes left in the game. What did you see from Illinois? Did it get rid of some of your concerns about them going into the tournament?
Yeah, it did. I mean, I think that's what Illinois is going to be. I mean, they started off a little slow out of the gate, but I think that was just the momentum from the other side, the adrenaline riding. They're going to be fine. They're a 3 seed for a reason, and it really comes down to Wagler. T-Bone has talked a lot about this and how he looks down the stretch and what they can do if they can find ways to get stops. I watched that game, and I'm like, yeah, Illinois is going to be fine. They'll be a team that gets to the Sweet 16, and we'll see what happens from there.
I love what this team can be. I think they're getting out of this portion of their region. I like the matchup a lot against VCU. Yeah. They're a 10.5-point favorite against VCU tomorrow. I like that side of things. Mm-hmm. And if they are able to win that one, they'll get the winner of Texas A&M versus Houston. I think Illinois is better than both of those teams. I don't know what the line will be against Houston. I bet you it would be close. It might even favor Houston slightly. I will like the Illinois side of things if that ends up being the matchup, and we'll talk about that on Monday. For SLU, just a spectacular
incredible
night. Maybe their best game of the season, given the expectations, given the opponent, everything that went into it. 102-77, really never in doubt. And they did this without dominating from beyond the arc.
Yeah.
That's what impressed me most about this, Alex. It was back cuts. It was passing. It was ball movement. Really impressive. And it means that no matter what happens tomorrow against Michigan, as SLU is a 12.5-point underdog in that game, this has been a successful season, and you get to continue to build this momentum with Josh Schertz already signing that contract extension. So you don't have to go into this weekend wondering, was that the last win that we get to see in the Josh Schertz era? No, it's not. He can potentially build on this in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, they crushed it in that game. Like, the transition to me was so impressive. Like you said, they won a different way than what we saw them win in the A-10 all season long. It does suck. You get the Michigan matchup, and look, you keep it competitive regardless if you lose, man. What a season it was and has been for SLU. And you're right. The biggest win, I think, is for Billikens fans after that win. Not so much because they advanced around, but because you saw what Josh Schertz is capable of, and it paid off in a tournament win. And you've got that guy for another season, which was probably the most important thing that SLU needed to figure out before the end of this year.
All right, NCAA tournament action the rest of the day today. You ready to go through these, Alex?
All right, let's do it.
I've got some picks that I like for today. Alabama is an 11.5-point favorite against Hofstra. I'll go ahead and take Hofstra plus the 11.5. I do not think they're winning this game outright. But if you want to bet something against the spread, I do like Hofstra plus 11.5. Bama playing this game without their second-best player. I'll go ahead and take the Hofstra side of things there.
Our boy Grant Francis, who is back in New York, who is a graduate from Hofstra, texted me at about 7:30 this morning and said, please put money down on Hofstra to win straight up. So he's riding it high. I'll celebrate with Grant Francis, and we'll go for Hofstra
All
here.
right, so I mentioned earlier today I really liked Santa Clara against Kentucky. I feel the same way about Utah State today against Villanova. I think they are a slightly better team. I do think they will win this game. You can take that for whatever it's worth. You can take that and say, you know what, BK was right. Santa Clara was every bit as good as Kentucky, and they had a real shot to be able to win that game. Or you could say BK was wrong, they lost that game, and go ahead and take the Villanova side of things. But I'm just giving you my pick. I do like Utah State in this one against Villanova.
Yeah, I liked Utah State. The moment I put that bracket together on Selection Sunday, I'm not 100% in on Villanova, so I had Utah State without question.
I like Miami of Ohio plus the 11.5. I do not think they win this game. However, go back to my tempo stuff, Tennessee plays extremely slow. And that means that teams stay in the game against them longer than you might otherwise expect, especially when they're going up against lesser teams that can shoot the three. That could keep things close, becomes a math problem. I think they cover the 11.5-point spread.
Yep, I have them covering on that one. I feel like those teams are riding a little bit of a high after getting that first one in. So with Miami of Ohio's season, I think they surprise a lot of people and keep it close.
All right, you ready for me to go the opposite way of everything that I've ever believed in?
Yeah, because you're going to pick Miami, right?
I'm going to pick Iowa. Iowa minus 1.5 in this game today against Clemson. Here's why. I watched that team with that coach beat my Missouri Tigers last year. I'm not betting against them. I can't do it. I'm overcorrecting. They've been bad for the most part down the stretch. Now, they've lost to mostly good teams and mostly in close games, but they've been bad nonetheless. I don't care. I do not care. I am afraid of that coach. I am afraid of Bennett Sturts. I am afraid of everything about that team. Give me Iowa minus the 1.5 against Clemson today.
I like how you're overcorrecting on what happened for you last season, and you're going with this one. So I'm not going to do that, and I'll stick with Clemson on this.
All right, and the last one, I am taking Miami minus the 1.5.
Over Mizzou?
Mm-hmm.
Man,
I think they're just a slightly better version of Missouri. I don't trust this Mizzou team. I like them. I have had fun at times watching this team play, but down the stretch, they've reverted back to who they were midway through the year. And I just can't trust them. They don't have good enough guard play, and I think Miami is just a mirror image of them and a slightly better version of them.
I think if this was played anywhere other than St. Louis, I'd be going with Miami because I just don't like the way that Mizzou limped down to the finish line. But because this is playing in St. Louis and they're so similar of teams, I will give that home court advantage the advantage for Mizzou. So I'm with you. When I originally did the bracket on Sunday, I took Miami, and then I've gone back and forth with it, and I think I settle on the home court gives them the upper hand.
I hope like hell that you are correct. I would love nothing more than to be wrong about my Missouri Tigers. I'm wrong about them quite often. I hope to be wrong about them again tonight. I will certainly be locked in as they tip off at, 11 o'clock tonight, roughly, somewhere there.
I hope I'll be locked in.
I hope all of you enjoy the games tonight. Don't forget to use that Underdog app. Use our promo code BKO if you haven't done so yet. Also, check out the Fast Lane on YouTube coming up later on this afternoon. They will have Jim Montgomery joining the show. It will be Anthony Stalter back in the saddle alongside Kerry Davis and Andrew Marsh. We do appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in today or coming and stopping by today at Ray's Sports House, yesterday at Helen Fitzgerald's. It's been a fantastic 48 hours or so hanging out with many of you that were able to make it out, saying hi, grabbing yourself a cold Bud Light. So enjoy all of the action this weekend. We will be able to break it all down for you on Monday at 11 a.m. Alex has Blues coverage for you tomorrow here on 101 ESPN. For Alex Ferrario, I'm Brandon Kiley. Appreciate Doty helping us on the ones and twos out here, and Bradford Bruns for stepping in on the production side of things back in the studio. We'll talk to you Monday at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's next here on 101